You ever wake up one morning thinking you're just going to sip your coffee, watch the sun bounce off your backyard lake, and by nightfall, you're the most talked about person in the whole neighborhood? Hero to some, villain to others? Well, I promise you, I never pictured my quiet weekends turning into a local legend about a 6-foot fence and one very entitled cousin of a so-called HOA queen. But life's funny that way. My name's Ethan Brooks. 5 years ago, I signed more paperwork than my hand could stand to buy my little slice of heaven in Ridgewater Shores, a decent house. Backyard stretching straight down to a sandy patch hugging a sweet, calm lake. It was deeded lakefront, split with a handful of other homes, but no fences, no fuss. I had this simple dream. Saturday mornings fishing with my son Liam, Sunday afternoons teaching my daughter Hazel to swim without floaties, maybe grilling with the neighbors. For a while, that's exactly what we did. Then, 6 months back, our HOA got a new president, Cheryl Hammond. But most folks just started calling her Queen Cheryl behind her back. She swept in acting like she'd been crowned, not elected. Suddenly, we had rules about which color tulips you could plant, fines for lawn clippings on the curb. She even banned wind chimes because they were, and I quote, audible clutter. But petty power plays aside, Cheryl's real game was lining up her inner circle. Her brother-in-law got paid for inspections that mostly involved drinking beer in people's yards. Her best friend nabbed the pool cleaning gig for triple what we used to pay. And then her cousin, Madison, she landed like a wrecking ball on our peaceful shoreline. Madison came from Florida, supposedly just visiting for the summer, but you'd have thought she bought half the lake herself. Within days, she dragged out a parade of high-end lounge chairs, tiki torches, even a Bluetooth speaker system blasting pop songs from dawn to dusk. Next thing I knew, she was laying down foundation for her own personal jet ski ramp, right smack across the middle of what everyone had always shared. One evening I walked over, tried to stay neighborly. Hey Madison, listen, I'm all for fun, but we all own this spot. So maybe keep the setup minimal? She didn't even look up from her phone, just flicked her sunglasses down her nose and waved a piece of paper at me like she was a queen knighting a peasant. Cheryl gave me exclusive rights, Ethan. So unless you feel like paying a lawyer, back off. I took that paper home, poured myself a bourbon, and read every word. It was an easement reassignment from the HOA, supposedly voted in unanimously, except 2 board members were on vacation in Mexico when this so-called vote happened. The whole thing reeked worse than dead fish under a dock. So, being a contracts lawyer, the kind who knows what words on paper actually mean, I did my homework. County records, city planning. The HOA's own dusty charter from the 90s. It was crystal clear. The lakefront was deeded to our individual lots, not up for grabs by Cheryl or anyone else playing dictator for the day. Next HOA meeting, I showed up armed with facts, copies, and the polite fury only a father has when his daughter comes crying because some cousin queen told her she couldn't swim at her own house. I laid out the real documents on the table, pointed at the bylaw that said the HOA had zero authority over deeded property lines, and asked Cheryl, sweet as pie, mind explaining this easement? Cheryl? 'Cause unless you discovered a legal time machine, it doesn't hold water. Cheryl went from fake calm to beet red in 2 seconds flat, clutched the podium like she might hurl it at me. She shrieked about new secret amendments nobody but her seemed to have seen, threatened fines, $500 per day for obstruction of HOA policy. The audience shifted in their chairs, whispering. Some folks started pulling out their phones, taking photos. Meanwhile, Madison doubled down. Not only did she leave her beach empire in place, she threw a 4th of July bash big enough to drown out our whole street. Kids couldn't swim. The beach was covered in plastic cups and leftover hot dog buns for days. And the final straw? Little Hazel woke me up one morning, tears in her eyes, saying Madison blocked her from going down the dock. That's the thing about dads. Once you mess with our kids, you unleash something worse than lawyers, fines, or bylaws. You get raw stubborn. I drafted one last certified notice, gave Madison and Cheryl 72 hours to clear their junk off my slice of sand or face civil court. They ignored it. In fact, they came to my door. Madison smirking, Cheryl with some half-baked lawyer in tow who looked fresh out of law school, if he'd ever seen one at all. Cheryl offered to waive my HOA dues for a year if I'd be reasonable. Madison proposed she'd take Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and I could have the leftover scraps. The lawyer mumbled about squatters' rights, which made me laugh so hard I nearly shut the door in his face mid-sentence. When the clock hit 0 on that 72-hour timer, I did exactly what any rational, slightly fed-up contracts attorney dad would do. I called a surveyor, filed a permit, and ordered 6 truckloads of wood. The fence idea wasn't just about spite, though I won't lie. That was a tasty bonus. It was about drawing a line so bold and undeniable that not even Queen Cheryl and her paper kingdom could twist it. The surveyor flagged every foot from the old oak to the waterline. I walked that line twice myself. Then, at dawn, while half the neighborhood watched through blinds and camera phones, I and 3 contractors sank posts straight down the middle of the beach, right through Madison's lounge nest, slicing her precious jet ski ramp in 2. The look on her face when she stepped out with her latte and saw that wall of cedar boards creeping across her throne? Worth every penny. An hour later, Cheryl stormed down in a bathrobe and curlers, shrieking about vandalism, threats of lawsuits, emotional distress. She called the local cops, who arrived, checked my paperwork, shrugged, and left. She called code enforcement. They found 0 violations. She probably called the National Guard next. I wouldn't be surprised. Meanwhile, half the neighbors who'd been too scared to cross Cheryl before came strolling by, coffee mugs in hand, pretending to admire the fence while sneaking grateful thumbs-ups at me. By sunset, Madison's backyard resort looked like a half-finished stage set for a bad reality show, her speakers muted, her ramp to nowhere dangling awkwardly over the water, and her tiki torches sitting sadly on my side of the line. Cheryl panicked, called an emergency HOA meeting that night, trying to paint me as the neighborhood menace threatening community unity. But she miscalculated badly. Turns out, folks had receipts of their own. Tom Harrison, retired judge from 2 streets over, calmly stood up and read out half a dozen ways Cheryl had broken the HOA's own charter. Then Sarah Lynn, the lady whose flower beds got ripped up because Cheryl said they didn't match the community aesthetic, held up photos, receipts, even screenshots of group chats. One by one, people piled on. Secrets they'd mumbled about at BBQs came pouring out under fluorescent cafeteria lights. The cherry on top? Madison's own husband showed up, stared at the fence, at Madison, then said loud enough for the back row to hear, "Pack it up, Mads. I'm not paying a dime more for your summer empire." He started hauling her junk back to their car that night, cornered and exposed. Cheryl tried a last-ditch power move, declared an executive order to have my fence torn down in the name of neighborhood harmony. The HOA's actual attorney finally cleared his throat for the first time all year and said, deadpan, "Madam President, you just admitted on record to violating state property law. You're done." Vote to remove Cheryl? Unanimous. Charges? Embezzlement. She'd used HOA money to pay for Madison's fake easement and padded her family's checks. 3 months later, she stood in court, trembling while the judge handed her probation, community service, and a 47 grand bill to repay the neighborhood. These days, I still sit on my porch, sipping coffee, watching the sunrise paint my fence golden. The lake's peaceful again. My kids splash in the water like nothing ever happened. That fence stands not just as wood and nails, but as a reminder that sometimes drawing a line is the most neighborly thing you can do. So you tell me, was I petty? Or did that fence speak louder than any lawyer ever could? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you've got your own HOA horror story, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, you haven't heard the craziest one yet.